Some bearded guy in animal skins is walking through the forest and crying. He tried to shoot a goat with a bow, but without success. The wounded animal ran away, so his prey became a small frog, which the bearded man brutally killed and roasted over a fire. The next day, the man felt really sick. He was in a terrible condition. A wrapper from a chocolate bar reminded him of his old life. And so Martin, in his strange attire, entered the nearest store. He opened the package and greedily consumed the products without paying for them. Yes, he had nothing to pay with. He informs the extremely surprised cashier about it. The guy asks if everything is okay with the strange customer. He is eager to have a beer and a cigarette. Therefore, he suggests solving the problem through an exchange. Martin is willing to trade an axe for 3 packs of cigarettes and the products. Suddenly, another store employee with a baseball bat comes out from the back room. He asks the freak to put down the axe and pay for the products. It all ended in a fight. The savage knocked out the man and took the food, leaving nothing in return. He headed back to the mountains. In the same area, 3 men were driving on the road, and when the driver got distracted, the car at a higher speed hit a moose. The driver survived, but immediately got kicked in the throat by the moose's hoof. Musa decided that both passengers had died and, taking the bag, walked ahead. However, Musa's leg was injured, and he was losing a lot of blood. Martin reached his tent and finally had something to eat, and drank beer. In a good mood, he practiced shooting his bow. Suddenly, Martin saw a bloody trail from a hand and found the sleeping Musa. He poked the stranger with his bow and offered to call an ambulance. He had a mobile phone, but Musa refused. So, Martin suggested stitching the wound, and he had a first aid kit. The wound was about 15 centimeters long, and Musa could barely withstand the first stitch. The savage tried to distract him with talk about food. Soon, the painful procedure was over. Musa is curious how long this savage has been living here. Martin couldn't recall immediately. The savage guessed it was about a year, but Martin replied that it was around 10 days. Martin is Danish. He got tired of his regular life, fell into depression, and decided to change something. He tried various extreme sports, but nothing helped. However, in the Norwegian forest, he seems to have found himself again. It turned out that Musa's bag was filled to the brim with money. An old cop came to the store to grab a snack and laughed at the shopkeepers. They claimed that they were attacked by a Viking, a dirty, bearded, homeless man. The cop showed the shopkeepers a picture on his phone, which featured a trio from the car. Soon, he arrived at the accident site. Even delighted his colleagues by saying they would go on a hike right away to track down the culprits. There were no passengers in the car anymore. Martin continues to contemplate the advantages of such a life. No more nasty bosses, computers, or news. But it's going to get cold soon, Musa reminds him. He tells Martin that he plans to go to a place where people live like that, without electricity and toilets, to the village of Gudalen. A whole village where people like Martin wear animal skins and go hunting with a bow. The savage immediately turned on his phone to check if Musa was lying to him. It's a new phone. It doesn't have internet access, but his wife, Anne, called and asked where he had disappeared to. Martin lied, saying he had a meeting and didn't know when he would be back home. He quickly hung up. While he was on the call, the police found the camp and arrested Musa. Martin pointed his bow in their direction. He's confident that the police came because of the incident at the store, and Musa is innocent. The criminal overpowered the police officers and took their weapons. Martin quickly packed his things and agreed to go with Musa to the wild village. Martin forgot his phone. His wife continues to call him. After a few minutes, his conscience got the better of him and he planned to return, offer the police officer some cookies, and apologize. But Musa convinced the naive man to move on. He said that he had finally taken control of his life. He's a real man and so on, and that's how easily he persuaded him to keep going. In the car, a married couple discusses a problem. They haven't been intimate for 3 months. But recently, the husband had an affair right in front of her. The wife concluded that her husband is just selfish and doesn't care about her. She's pregnant, and he doesn't even know what altruism is. So, the man decided to become an altruist at the most inappropriate moment and picked up 2 hitchhikers. But the wife objected, saying that one of them is definitely a migrant. The husband called his wife a racist, but immediately wanted to leave when he saw the pedestrians. Bloodied bandits want to reach Gudalen. One of them took the phone, and the other got into the car and has no intention of leaving it. The criminals hijacked the car with the pregnant woman, but after driving a bit, they let her go. Event found the handcuffed policemen who were also attacked by a Viking. However, they talked to his wife. For one of the cops, this was too much stress, and he went home to his wife. In the evening, Event returned home. He told his wife about the strange guy, the Viking who runs through the forest. However, when he lay on the bed, there was no one around. Event still confessed his love to his deceased wife. By the campfire, Musa tells Martin that he has a 2-year-old son, but he hasn't seen him since birth. He was a real scoundrel. Maybe a good job and money will change something. Martin gets smart, talks about genetic memory, and reminisces about prehistoric times when women sat in caves and men were solitary hunters. Musa concluded that his companion is delusional. The travelers stopped by the river. Martin thinks that going around would take too long. Musa is sure they will drown. At the very least, all their things will get wet. But Martin has a tarpaulin, which, for example, the Vikings didn't have. He folded their supplies into it and tied it securely. He tried to throw it across the river, but he didn't have the strength, and the current carried all their things away. So they decided to go around. Martin made the decision. The Viking's wife arrived at the police station with 2 daughters and a rabbit. The woman was surprised to learn that her husband was somewhere in this vast forest. She explained that before his disappearance, Martin was behaving as usual, getting ready for a corporate team-building event. He's not an abuser, has no legal problems, just some peculiarities. On the photo, she saw how her husband looks today. Event concluded that the guy either went crazy or got involved with a drug trafficking gang. Musa tells Martin that they are going in circles. However, Martin responds that he navigates by the moss, which grows exclusively on the northern side. But Musa immediately pointed out a rock covered with moss on all sides. Suddenly, the criminal pulled out a gun and fired several shots. He killed a goat, although he wasn't sure if it was edible. Anne is trying to come to her senses. The kids wanted to take the rabbits to the store, but their mother didn't allow it. She accidentally dropped the cage, and the animal escaped. Now, Anne had to lie to the children, saying that it was the rabbit's own choice. It wanted to live in such a beautiful place. Anne imagined her husband in place of the rabbit and burst into tears. After regaining her composure, the couple continued their journey. Musa saw the village in the distance, and they descended towards it. Indeed, everyone here lives as if in the Middle Ages. A healthy and stern Viking blocked the path for the travelers. The guests entered from a side entrance, but they are allowed to stay. Martin's costume is really impressive. Blacksmiths, carpenters, potters, each is engaged in their own work. Martin went towards the smell of roasted meat and asked a local woman for a few pieces. The lady placed them on a plastic plate, added ketchup, and took out a cash register. It cost Martin 120 kroner. The man was in shock. Only now did he realize that everything around was staged. Martin has no intention of paying for the food. He would rather steal it. After walking a bit further, he reached civilization with electronic music, phones, and regular clothing. He was stopped by a group of Vikings. The leader argued with Martin about who resembles a Viking and a real man more. Martin said that he's a real man because he just committed theft. If the thief doesn't return the food, they will detain him and call the police. Martin was caught and tied to a post. Musa appeared then. He shoots and scolds both the locals and Martin. Why do grown men dress up and run around like this? Afterward, he freed the greenhouse and hijacked the main Viking's car. The bandits stopped at a hotel and asked to inform them if a dark-skinned guy with a sports bag checks in. The cops arrived in the village in response to the call and, taking statements, Ivan inquired about the situation. "What's all this for?" The old man believes that not everyone here is mentally unstable. He had a similar acquaintance who loved active leisure. They were given fishing rods and mountaineering boots. But it turned out that he was having fun in a tent with his buddy all the time, and when his wife found out, he hanged himself. Not only did he waste his life, but he also didn't need and received gifts every year. There was an iPhone left in the stolen car, so the police would quickly locate the fugitives. The men broke into an empty house. Musa's leg hurts a lot. Eventually, he admits that he is a courier and shows the money he received for hashish. He was with 2 partners who died in the accident. Musa persuades the man to reconsider and go home. "Why doesn't he have a home?" Martin shouted. Yes, he has a wonderful wife, but he needs to talk to her, and he's tired of all this daily routine. A police car approached the house. Martin ran away and disappeared into the forest. While the police were distracted, Musa slashed their tires and drove away in the stolen car. When he reached the ferry, he hid the bag with the money and the gun. But the ferry would depart only tomorrow, so Musa had to stay at a motel. He grabbed some chips and entered his cabin. The motel administrator rented it to him, and his former partners immediately showed up. They beat and tortured Musa, trying to find out where the bag with the money was. The search party is now looking for Martin in the snowy forest. Anne seemed to sense something and, moving away from the others, discovered her husband hiding under the branches. The woman was very happy, but Martin demanded to be left alone. Anne asked him to at least explain. Martin started talking about prehistoric people again, and his wife concluded that he was delusional. In the forest, he became himself, and if Anne doesn't understand him, it's better for them to part ways. Anne got angry and called the police on the fool. He only thinks about himself and didn't even think about his daughters. Martin was arrested, his skin was removed, and his knife was taken away. Anne calms down the daughters and takes them away. At the police station, Martin asked if he would be imprisoned. Armed robbery attacking 2 policemen hunting without a license, it all looks very much like it, the police officer replied. Even scolds Martin for how he could say to such an amazing woman that he will divorce her, but Martin himself knows that she is amazing, just like his daughters. Even also loved going on long fishing trips. His wife would always ask him to take her along, but he wanted to be alone so no one would bother him. Then his wife was gone, and he was alone for the rest of his life. Martin wants to call Anne, and for that opportunity, he is even willing to reveal where Musa headed, and they both set off to Gudelen. The stolen car was parked next to the motel. Bound Musa smiled when he heard that a policeman was behind the door. Simone directed the gun at Ivan through the door, and to prevent a tragedy, Musa told them where he had hidden the bag with the money. But another bandit circled the house and knocked out Ivan. Then he brought him inside. Martin didn't see this because he was on the phone with his wife. He apologized for everything and said he wanted to go back home. Musa was taken outside to show the hiding place. Ivan came out of the cabin with a fractured skull. He freed Martin and pulled out a shotgun. The criminals started shooting. Bashir circled around the old man and was about to shoot him when an arrow from Martin, who had even put on his skins, hit him in the leg. The old cop shot Bashir point blank. They continued to track their prey together. However, Simon set a trap for Ivan and shot him several times in the abdomen. Musa didn't let the old man be finished off and shot his former partner. Ivan decided to spend his last moments admiring the beautiful landscape. Soon, Ivan will meet his beloved wife. Martin helped Musa reach the ferry. In the cafeteria, he finally bought a sandwich and a chocolate bar with the money. Martin was tired of dealing with nonsense.